'cause it's a mister like you that puts the rest of us to shame. I have seen enough, and I've seen enough to know that my choice seems to touch.
Didn't do right. Response to a mandate by Congress. That may be what Marcus gave you, but I don't know.
Oh, well, there's a second part.
You say that you can't help them, mister, you're not even trying. Oh, excuse me, mister, just take a look around. Mister, when you look up, you will see what is coming down. So excuse me, mister, I'm a miss to you, and you're giving mister a bad name, mister like you. So I'm gonna take the mister from out in front of your name, 'cause it's a mister like you that puts us to shame. Thank you.
Yes, give it up for Christina Wright. So as we went around DC, we visited different international financial institutions, and we're out here knowing that they are impoverishing our people, not just abroad, but also right here at home. So we'd like to introduce our next speaker. He is the Vice Chair of the People's Organization for Progress and the former President of Mail Handlers Local 300. Give it up for Larry Adams!
Power to the people! Power to the people of Venezuela! U.S. hands! U.S. hands off! Comrades, friends, sisters, and brothers, I come from People's Organization for Progress in New Jersey to bring a message of solidarity. Solidarity first to the people of Venezuela, and salute their exercise of their right of national self-determination to choose their leaders, in overwhelming democratic fashion of President Maduro winning 67% of the vote. No U.S. president has ever been elected with such a resounding support of the masses of people. We came with solidarity for their right to choose their path of social development. That is the road of the Bolivarian Revolution, to use the world's largest deposits of oil for the uplift of the people and not the profits of the predators. We come with bring a message of solidarity to them. And as much, we bring solidarity with all the peoples of the former colonies, independent, dependent, and oppressed nations, who have as much stake in this struggle as we do, because of our common enemy. As much, POP brings solidarity to you, the anti-imperialist forces in this country, who recognize it is our responsibility, our particular responsibility, as those who love freedom in the belly of the beast, to give it indigestion and to destroy it from within.
Join the dots between capitalism, war, and climate change. I think it's very, very important that the mobilization of people includes the fact that we are trashing the planet,
of the Venezuelan revolution.
that there are going to be climate refugees which have no legal status.
They will lead the fight.
That we have to care for these people, and there will be millions and millions of them. And that's my message today.
It is our responsibility to build a movement in this country that will support the freedom struggle of the Venezuelan people and all other oppressed people, because we have a common enemy, and that is the system of imperialism led by U.S. imperialism. We are particularly situated in the belly of the beast to give service to our comrades and allies around the world. We must build a united front against imperialism. We must stand with the Venezuelan people against U.S. imperialist intervention. We must stand with Maduro on the legacy of Chavez against Trump and his whistling, traitor, lying Guaido. We must unite with the African Union against NATO. The African Union stands with the Venezuelan people, while NATO is an imperialist war machine intended to continue exploitation and oppression. We must stand with the Afro-descended people of Venezuela and against Trump and his white supremacist minions who lust after the Venezuelan oil. It's been the 600-pound gorilla at the table that we've not talked about today. It's the largest oil reserves in the world. It is why the United States, leading the other imperialist powers, want to destabilize and take over Venezuela, as well as declare their hegemony in the Western Hemisphere. We ain't going back to no more Monroe Doctrine. These are independent countries that have the right of sovereignty and self-determination. It is our responsibility to defend those rights here in the belly of the beast.
Self-determination.
As Pop fights against the war on Black America, we fight also against imperialist war against our friends and allies around the world. It is our common struggle. We remember the rules of history. They lied to us about Vietnam to justify intervention. They lied to us about Iraq to justify intervention. They lied to us about Iran. They lied to us about Libya. Why do we think they ain't lying to us about Venezuela? We know they're lying about Venezuela because hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans stand in the street in support of the Bolivarian Revolution and their elected president, Nicolas Maduro. But also, Vietnam taught us the lesson that a small country can defeat a big, that a poor country can defeat a rich with the proper organization, the mobilization of the masses, their consciousness and organization. And Venezuela too can win. We learned that historic lesson. As we leave here, let us be inspired to build a united front against imperialism. Let us be inspired to take home the message. U.S. hands off of Venezuela. Long live the Bolivarian Revolution. Down with imperialism led by U.S. imperialism. And should the fascist Trump, should the fascists invade Venezuela, let each organization and individual represented here today declare we will hit the streets on that day to say hands off Venezuela. Power to the people.
I said, who, we, when, now, we're gonna bring imperialism down. I said, who, we, when, now, we're gonna bring imperialism down. Give it up for Larry Adams once again. Next up, we have Maria Zakharova, supporter of the Council of Mothers of May 2 in Odessa. Give it up for Maria.
I came from Ukraine, I live there. It has a total border over 2,600 kilometers with Russia. This is the longest border with Russia in Europe. In 1991, Ukraine declared independence. From that moment, United States began actively intervene in the internal affairs of the country. United States wanted Ukraine to join NATO and to place NATO military bases on its territory.
When's your birthday? When's my birthday?
United States teaching opposition, support and financing the right grouping, far-right grouping, training oppositional journalists, and all this was used to make a coup in Ukraine 5 years ago, in 2014. They replaced pro-Russian president by corrupt pro-American president. This led to the beginning of the Civil War. This led to the tragedy of May 2nd in Odessa, where I live, when the opponents of the coup were burned alive. Now is 5 years of civil war in Ukraine. 5 years of chaos in our country. And it all was done to put NATO forces into Ukraine, to long border with Russia. Now we are looking for attempt of U.S. intervention in Venezuela, and we see the same tactics. We understand that the interest of United States in Venezuela is oil, and the actions of United States will be either a coup or a military invasion. We see deaths of thousands of people, destructions of whole cities, economic and political chaos. This is actions of the USA and NATO. We must stand against the NATO in solidarity with other countries all over the world. We must end NATO and USA crimes. No to NATO. NATO, take the hands of Ukraine.
Let's do another chant. Let's keep the energy up. All right, so this one goes, cops here, bombs there, U.S. out of everywhere. Cops here, bombs there, U.S. out of everywhere. Cops here, bombs there, U.S. out of everywhere. Awesome, great. Keep that energy up, all right? So for the next speaker, I'd like to call up Paul Pumphrey of Friends of the Congo and Black Alliance for Peace. Give it up for Paul.
Good afternoon. When we look at the issue of NATO in Africa and the role the United States plays with NATO, we look at historically at the role of how the U.S. used NATO to support Portugal's control over Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde, and Angola. And as they used that, that was to protect the apartheid regime that was south of those countries. So the history of the United States in Africa is long, it's very long. In fact, the United States involvement in the Democratic Republic of the Congo started over 125 years ago. And so we understand that now in the United States, because they don't have the former colonial powers in Africa anymore, they have switched gears to African command. And the idea is to put U.S. military bases throughout Africa, very similar to what Britain and France have done over the years. The result of that is that they've carried out a war for the mineral-rich eastern part of the Congo, that from 1996 to 2006, the United Nations estimated that 6 million people were killed, so that the United States could get their hands on the minerals that are in our cell phones, that are in our laptops, that are in the sophisticated electronic equipment that we use today. And it's not because they couldn't have bought it from the Congolese people. No, they wanted it cheap. And so they've been funneling weapons into Rwanda, into Uganda, to carry out that blood war. And out of that 6 million people over those 10 years, is an estimated 3 million of them were children below the age of 5. So you can't even describe them as people who were enemy combatants. So when we look at NATO, we must look at African Command as an offspring of what the United States used NATO in Africa in the past. Now this coming April the 4th, the Black Alliance for Peace is going to have a program at Plymouth Congregational Church, which is located on North Capitol Street in Riggs Road. And we're going to be celebrating our second anniversary there, as well as we will be going more into detail about how the U.S. government is using our tax dollars to carry out genocide. We also would like to invite each and every one of you all that will be in town to come by and to learn more in detail of what is going on and how our tax dollars, rather than being used for health care in this country, rather than being used for affordable housing in this country, rather than to be used for public education in this country, rather than to be used to keep tuition down in our state universities, it's being used to kill children below the age of 5. So we must reverse this process. We must demand democracy and we must demand peace. Thank you.
Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Next up, we have someone you already met, Comrade Lone Tran with the International Action Center from Durham, North Carolina, where they are organizing the efforts to resist RNC 2020. Let's give them a warm and militant applause. Woo, Lone!
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? All right, so we already know that the war has already begun on Venezuela, with economic sanctions and outright media lies attempting to turn the rest of the globe against the Bolivarian Revolution. And we are very familiar with this cycle of war and domination. It is a twisted game that imperialists play and the endless drive toward profit. If not Latin America today, then Latin America tomorrow. If not Africa today, then Africa tomorrow. If not the Middle East today, then the Middle East tomorrow. Libya, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Nicaragua, Colombia, Palestine, Korea, Guatemala, Philippines, Yemen, Pakistan, Somalia, Cuba, Brazil. Trillions of dollars have been poured into the project of white supremacist and capitalist world domination by a few empires who time and time again continue to underestimate the power of those it seeks to occupy and exploit. The people are rising up. They are fighting back. They are saying enough is enough, and we must defend them. Is that right? We must defend them. The stakes are high, and our ultimate duty as revolutionaries in the belly of the beast is to fight for the defeat of the U.S. empire and its war machine. We've got to fight and beat back the attacks on oppressed people here in the U.S. and around the globe. We cannot be cogs in the machines. We've got to be wrenches. We've got to be kinks and messes they can't untangle. We got to fight till we got no more fight. Workers and oppressed people of the world are owed a great deal for the outrageous murders, for the theft and extraction of natural resources, for the destruction of the planet, for the literal starvation of humanity under the guise of so-called democracy, for the centuries of coups and puppet governments defying the revolutionary will of the people. So instead of war on Venezuela, how about reparations for Venezuela? How about reparations for Cuba? Reparations for Puerto Rico? Reparations for the Honduran migrants at the border? Reparations for Flint, Michigan? Reparations for the black, brown, and indigenous people facing the war of police brutality and incarceration in this country? Reparations for people around the world resisting the gun of the U.S. empire and of the NATO war machine. And we've got to unite our struggles if we want to win. We got to be against racism and white supremacy at home and abroad. We want U.S. and NATO out of everywhere, and the occupations and the wars and the sanctions and the coups. So we got to want to free Mumia Abu-Jamal, free Leonard Peltier, free Afia Siddiqui, free Chelsea Manning. We got to want to fight gentrification and deportations. We got to want to not just defund the Pentagon, but we got to defund ICE and the police. We got to end the attacks on queer and trans people, on black women, on disabled people. We got to make the racists afraid again, the same way the Bolivarian Revolution makes the imperialists afraid again. Hands off Venezuela. And now I'm going to introduce our next speakers. Weird. All right, y'all. I'm I'm not a musician. I don't sing any songs. Sorry. So from the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign, please give it up for Sherry Alcala.
Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution sounds. Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution sounds like a whisper while they're standing in the velvet lines.
Hello. My name is Sherry Hakala, and I'm from the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. And don't get it twisted. Poor people in this country, we can speak for ourselves. I don't need anybody else to speak for me. I don't need anybody to tell me I can't be angry about the 2 men that were shot 3 blocks from my house last night. I don't need anybody to tell me to fall to the back of the march or to sit down or to shut up. Because poor people, we are rising up. We are organizing a poor people's army, literally, not figuratively, and we are going to reclaim our lives. And Chavez, when he was alive, he realized the importance, not of somebody coming and speaking on our behalves. So when he was alive, I had the honor of being flown to Venezuela with 100 of my poor brothers and sisters. We traveled the country for 2 months. I met with him in the presidential palace. And he said to me, Sherry, he said, it's important that you go back, that you rise up with the poor in the United States and you take your country back in the belly of the beast. But you see, we can't organize a poor people's army if you don't understand whose side you're on. And the problem with the left today is they don't really know whose side they're on. Because the non-profit industrial complex is funding a mass mental takeover of revolutionary people in preparation for the next presidential election. And we are praying that you keep your eyes wide open. We can no longer say revolutionary stuff from the stage and then have Walmart fund a bus tour across the country. You feel me? We cannot wait. We can no longer have people talk about we gotta include black and brown people and then tokenize people and just have them be the pictures in our literature. We can no longer act like somebody that dies on my block is not as important as somebody that dies in Africa or Venezuela or Haiti or wherever. More people have died now in the United States from the opiate crisis than died in Vietnam, and I can't wait to live to a day where I see the anti-war movement in the fight to put an end to those deaths. We are the mothers who visit our loved ones in prison, who have to walk over the homeless people as we go on anti-war marches. And we are sick and tired of it. A lot of them are veterans who can't get their benefits, who have been used by our government and left to be homeless in Washington, D.C. Well, we want to challenge you to enlist as many people as possible. Black, brown, white. We don't care who you are. And truly building the largest poor people's army. Help us on the Underground Railroad. We are reclaiming land. We are reclaiming housing. We are reclaiming gardens. We are reclaiming humanity and a future for all of us. And we are doing all of this because we dare to do something. Every year, we've helped to organize the largest marches on opening days of conventions. We want you to stand with us on opening day, July 13th of the Democratic National Convention in Milwaukee. Will you join us? We want you to make sure that if you're interested, that you get one of our enlistment cards, that you look us up. Be sure when you go to support a Poor People's Campaign, it's really important that you find out who they're funded by. You feel me?
That's right.
You feel me? Because you see these poor people here? We ain't ever gonna take no Walmart money. We ain't ever gonna take no corporations' money. We ain't ever gonna take no Republican or Democratic Party's money. We are fighting for a future that's about political independence, and that means breaking the chains that are killing us. Thank you.
Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? We on the freedom side. Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? All right, y'all, give it up one more time for Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. Before I bring up our next speakers, I do have a few important announcements to make. Please make sure you pick up your trash. That is the first one. Tomorrow from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., the World Peace Council No to NATO, Yes to Peace gathering is taking place at the All Souls Unitarian Church at 1500 Harvard Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. There's been a location change, so make sure you pay attention to that. I was asked to make an announcement for the Boston Bus Drivers Union, School Bus Drivers Union. Let's give it up for them. They are heading out at 5 p.m. And so if you're on that bus, make sure that you head to H and 17th. All right. Our next speaker is with Extinction Rebellion and former Green Party leader in Wales. She is a human rights campaigner who was imprisoned in Israel for supporting Palestinians at the No to NATO in 2015. Please give it up for Pippa Bartolotti.
Hi, hello Washington. My goodness, you've come a long way, some of you. Well, as was just said, I'm here representing Extinction Rebellion. Yes, we have to rebel. We have to rebel for life. And I want to ask you, please, to start joining the dots between war and poverty, between poverty and climate change, between the democratic deficit and the millions of refugees who are going to flood every single country that will remain habitable. Central America is going to become a desert. It's going to take more than a wall to keep people out. Now pay attention, folks. Is everybody in the US going to stand and watch people starving at that wall? Are you going to watch them dying of thirst? No, you're not. Of course you're not. But the fascist machine works very well. You ask any German. You ask what happened in Nazi Germany when they put out of their minds what was going on away from their front doors. So be aware, the fascist machine is clever and it's good. And we have to fight it, because otherwise we will be watching people starving at the borders. And that cannot be allowed. That is not the way forward. Capitalism is a war machine that takes no prisoners. It cannot give. And when it does so very grudgingly. We have to fight it. We have to abolish it. We have to abandon it for a future that's worth something more than what we've got now.
Yeah.
Capitalism has created a climate emergency, an extinction emergency. 200 species are going extinct every single day around us. Treasure those bees I saw you were running away from, because they are going to save your life. Look after everything. Central America desert. Climate refugees have no legal status. California, 9 million acres were just burned. The Pacific Islands going underwater 1 painful millimeter at a time. People are building their third house back on higher ground, and there's nowhere else to go. We are in the last chance saloon. 2019 is the year that we have to make it count. And it's no good listening to people like this, these lying bar stewards who are running our world. We have to do better, much, much better. We have to start infiltrating the mass media. That's what Extinction Rebellion is about. They won't listen until we do something, and every one of us is prepared to be arrested anywhere, anytime, to bring to the attention of government and the media what is actually happening to our world. You guys are all anti-war activists, but war is the greatest polluter. You know that. It has to stop on every level. There's a book called 2052 by a guy called Jorgen Randers, and he said, do not teach your children to love wildlife and the beautiful green spaces. Because if you do not teach your children to love these things, they won't miss them when they're gone. That is a very powerful thing to say. And we can do something about it. So let's all work together. The anti-war movement, the climate change movement, the anti-capitalist movement. We have to join the dots, and we have to work together and get stronger, and we have to recruit more. There have to be many, many more of us. We need a global warming of the hearts, and I know where it's not coming from. We need it with each other. So thank you for listening for me, and please be aware that there's an International Rebellion Day on April the 15th through to the 17th and the 18th. Could be happening in a town by you, but definitely happening in New York City. Thank you very much for listening to me.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. All right, y'all. Next up, we have someone from A Call to Action on Puerto Rico and El Frente Independentista Boricua, Lorraine Liriano Chavez. Please give it up for her. Viva, viva Puerto Rico. Libre, libre Puerto Rico.
Buenas tardes, compañeros y compañeras. I am from A Call to Action on Puerto Rico y el Frente Independentista Boricua. I send you greetings from the oldest colony in the Americas, 120 years of being a colony under U.S. imperialism. I want to also acknowledge that this is the 100th year of when Lolita Lebron, La Comandante, went into the Congress and she said, I'm not going to come here to injure you, I'm going to die for Puerto Rico. She visibilized our colonial status in the world. Right now, okay, brothers and sisters, we'd like to recognize the solidarity that exists of Venezuela to Puerto Rico. Venezuela has always said presente for Puerto Rico in the independence movement of Puerto Rico. Chavez has always said this. Maduro has welcomed Oscar Lopez Rivera, a political prisoner that was in 35 years in prison, incarcerated in this country. And so many of our people are repressed in this country. Right now, we have Nina Dros Franco, who was a political prisoner in Tallahassee. We have Ana Belén Lopez, who is a prisoner of conscience, imprisoned in a military installation in this country. In my country right now, 44% of the population lives under the level of poverty. 7.1 million people go to bed with hunger. And every day we have Puerto Ricans exiling here to the United States. This is forced exile. This is genocide. Right now we also have toxic ashes that are being spread by the American electric system. We have a protest on April 18th in Arlington, Virginia. We tell you to come out to our protest and support. This is mass murder, okay, genocide. They are destroying the lands of Puerto Rico and they think that they're going to get away with it, but we will not stay silent against this. We want the solidarity of all the communities because this is one fight. This is one fight. This is the fight of all of us. Okay, it's very important to remain aware of what's going on in Puerto Rico. We need your support to visibilize our actions, to visibilize our fight for independence. Okay, on June 24th, we are going to be testifying in front of the United Nations. And in that testimony, we're going to say that we need to be put back on the agenda as a colony. Right now, we're not considered a colony, okay? We are a colony of the United States. They are strangling us. There's no economic development. We do not have a say in what happens in our country, yet other foreigners are coming in and buying territory at pennies of the dollar, while we are being asked to leave our country, to exile from our country. They want to break up what is the archipelago of Puerto Rico and take away Vieques. Vieques is part of Puerto Rico. Culebra is part of Puerto Rico, and we will not accept this. It is one Puerto Rico, un Puerto Rico que viva, independentista y socialista. Gracias.
I remember 20 years ago in a demonstration in New York City against the bombing of my country, Yugoslavia, there was a Puerto Rican speaker, and he said that every bomb that is dropped on Yugoslavia was first tested in Vieques, Puerto Rico. And we have the only chance to survive on this globe is solidarity among all nations. My name is Miloš, I'm Serbian, and I come from Yugoslavia. When I tell this to somebody today, that I come from Yugoslavia, they will say, well, that doesn't exist. Well, I do exist. That's right. And I have brain and memory, and I have my body that still says I'm Yugoslav. Right. Do me a favor, pronounce the name of my country. Yugoslavia! 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 Yugoslavia!
Yugoslavia! Yugoslavia! Yugoslavia! Yugoslavia!
Thank you. That was a wonderful country. I got free education, free medical care, there were nice vacations, there was everything. Yugoslavia was destroyed after the fall of Soviet Union. And in order to destroy it, they had to divide people and to collaborate, US and German imperialism collaborated with the most backward elements, like a fascist elements in Yugoslavia to separate it from. And then what happened is the NATO bombing, that they called humanitarian intervention. This is a new expression, humanitarian intervention. They even had a proper name for the bombing of Yugoslavia. They call it Operation Merciful Angel. For 78 days, they dropped the bombs of my country. People in Yugoslavia, when I say Yugoslavia, at that point, Yugoslavia was already broken, and so the part that was bombed was actually Serbia and Montenegro. You see, this is the children killed in the bombing of Serbia and Montenegro. So I don't know what else to say. This is a horrible history, but it is very important to keep fighting and never give up. I think that there is still hope. Young people who were born after the 1999, in a way, they are friends, from different parts of Yugoslavia. They like the same rock and roll groups and they visit each other. So in a way, some kind of spirit is coming back. I want to say I was here 20 years ago when NATO was actually celebrating its 50th birthday, and that was during the bombing of Yugoslavia. So there was 19 countries. There were 3 more countries, Czech Republic and Poland and Hungary, and they were all celebrating, laughing with champagne. Even Václav Havel was here, the so-called human rights, whatever, Everything is upside down today, and we have to be very smart when we are fed propaganda, whether if it's from the right wing or from the kind of like a half left, and to know what's right and what's wrong. So let's stay in Washington and let's greet these motherfucking generals, Just to end up, I don't want to take too much time. I remember 20 years ago, there was a demo here, and at that time, generals were walking on the streets in Washington, D.C. in these colorful uniforms, whatever, and we were so angry, we shouted at them that they ran away, so they are not powerful people, they're like cowards that are hiding, basically. So let's unite, let's fight, and there is still hope. Last thing to say is that, my country, Serbia, is under great pressure from West, threatened by the banks, blackmailed and all of that. Despite of that, the government of today's Serbia is supporting President Maduro of Venezuela. So there is hope, and let's keep fighting. Thank you.
The marathon runners of the peace movement who are still here, and I want to make sure you know that we are going to be unwelcoming the NATO foreign ministers everywhere they go this week in this town. If you go to notonato.org, you'll find a list of events to link to find out what's planned.